board changes, these guidelines also needed to be updated. They're communicating the final selection results of the section, some additional documents. The second one will be in the other presentation. The local board priority list is a mandatory requirement for next or regional platform, EGM, and tangible streets. Selection of the second delegation with the EGM, right to appeal for the sections, strengthen the role of the country representatives for the parts of the Baltic Sea, and additional access. Next. So the next board. This is how I have, together with current board, distributed all of the events that we have on international level and who is responsible for what. So as you can see, the president is responsible for General Assembly for obvious reasons because the president is a vote holder, and also education community meetings. The vice president for governance, HR and network community meeting, and national assembly, so the international ones that if somebody wants to go and chair. Vice president for governance should know who is going to. Vice President for Development, National Boards Trainings or NBPs, educate any other trainings and activities, community, and international reference groups. Financial Manager, of course, Business and Finance. Partnership Manager, Transferabilities and Educational Training or P. POPs, Transfer Restriction if there's something else happening. Communication Manager, Communication Community Meeting, and IT Manager, IT Community Meeting. And then there is for the whole board / delegation leader, NET and EGM, with the aim that the person that becomes a delegation leader is responsible for the event that they are making a delegation leader for. Next. Next. Yes. Communicating the final selection results. So the final decision should be made public to sections via either online communication channels, so we have, for example, the community, or email at least 3 days before submitting the final list to, if it's needed to, it's an international case, NET and EGM. To times you're also sending to our partnership manager who are the people going as a group leaders, and also the POPs team. Next. The section consultation guidelines, more in the next presentation, but basically additional document on how the section consultation should happen in the ESN Latvia. About that, I have no presentation. Next. Yes, the local board priority list. So far, it wasn't mandatory to submit the priority list. It was just on my willingness that I asked you to submit the priority list so we can see who do you think is the most deserving person from your local level to go to the event. Now I have made this as a mandatory requirement for the regional platforms, EGM and tangible streets. In short, for us to have even fairer selection of people that we're sending. For the second delegation leader, the main changes that I have added here are about the spots that the second delegation leader gets. So for the EGM, there are, in our case, for now, 6 spots, 1 delegation leader, 2 national delegates, and then 1 section spot. So if we have a second delegation leader from the national level, then that second delegation leader gets a national delegate spot. If, for any reasons, the second delegation leader is coming from the section, then the person gets a section spot, respectively from which section the person is coming from. Next. Right to appeal. So the local boards, with my new version, will have now, if you go in, the right to appeal the final priority list decision in the case of NET, EGM, and tangible streets, if they disagree with the results. The local board has right to make the appeal in 2 days after receiving the results, and the national board is expected to re-abrogate the appeal. They can also not agree, but they need to check why the appeal is made and what is the concern. Next. Okay. So about the country representative for variants of the Baltic Sea, so we have had was there a vote? Oh, there was a vote. So we have had a situation that for some reason the person that should go for a post as a country representative from the national level cannot attend, so we are offering this spot to the section. Therefore, to offer it more correctly, in our case now, if the partnership manager cannot go as a country representative, we can open up the call for the sections for them to apply if they want to be a country representative. And there's a procedure how it is being done. Next. That's it. And additional annexes, so application timeline, how the applications are, let's say how the sections apply, how we react to the results, and how we send the final list. The delegation leader's responsibilities and also priority list template for each event. Next. So now you can see, but you can also find in the documents. So this is the graph, of course, the thing, how the application process should happen in the ESN Latvia based on the guidelines. So the application process for the event by the DFB is announced. Then the candidates that want to go apply. Then one day after the applications are closed, local board sends to the national board their priority list. Then NB 3 days before the final list submission publish the results of selected candidates. Then you have 2 days to make your appeal. If there's no appeal, perfect. Let's work for the national board. If there is, then the appeal needs to be reapplicated. And in case of NEC and EGM, the delegation leader starts preparing the delegation for the event after the delegation is formed. And after the event, there's a report that is written and sent out to the sections. And that's all. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now we will do slide again for the question round. And the first question will be from Taco.
Yes, Taco, yes, and Rita. Who will delegate the positions for the members if they're all responsible parties isn't filled out?
That's something that needs to be decided internally in the board. It depends on how much workload you have at the moment. If you can take up, for example, I don't know, we don't have the president, so if you can take up the main lead for the General Assembly or for the education community. So it's something that the board needs to sit down and discuss who is taking which event. But of course, for example, for General Assembly, as the Vice President for Governance is the acting president. If there's no president, then it's kind of expected that you will take it if elected. And in case we don't have a financial manager, then it's expected that the partnership manager will take the BFC community. So it's also how well you fit in the position, and also depends on your workload that you have. But that's something you sit down and discuss how you are dividing the international.
If you allow me, I will skip the next question. Is there anyone else typing the question or thinking about typing the question? Then I propose to close the speakers list. Is there any objection? No objections, I close the speakers list. And you can stay. For the next section, section of consultation guidelines.
By the way, 2-1. Keep one more. And of course, if you are shy to ask a question publicly, you can also approach me. I will be glad to talk about these 2 lovely documents and explain why you think you need to look at them. Yeah, the section consultation guidelines. Live, love, love. Next. So why is this legal? Simple as that is the requirement of the national organization to have it by the statute of business international. So it's not like we cannot have it, we have to have it. Next. So the structure of the document is the introduction, agenda, document, information section, second consultation call, calculation of the vote, voting ethics at the General Assembly, and topic of consultation. So the agenda of the document. So I'm going to guide you through how the section consultation should look like in practice based on the document. So from receiving the agenda from General Assembly charity, the president of ESN Latvia or another designated member from the national board needs to start preparing for the consultation. Something that I added after consulting the whole national board is that all national board members should be involved in the preparation of the consultation. Why? Because in some of the General Assemblies there are a lot of topics that need to be discussed. For example, GA Dubrovnik, I think there were 27 voting questions, and for example, me as a person that was preparing everything for the session consultation, I needed to go through all of the 27 voting matters, starting from the long-term strategy to the candidates, etc., etc. So it adds a huge burden. And of course, for example, for the budget, I'm not the best person to consult. So of course, it is expected that based on that topic, let's say that you're working for example, the budget, the next budget, it needs to be read by the financial manager. The changes in the events policy paper needs to be read by the vice president for development, etc. And the board member is expected to give to the president or designated national board member their opinion on the voting document before the section consultation call takes place. Important the section. So between 7 to 14 days after the agenda is sent out to us, the president or designate national board member is required to organize a section consultation call. The invitation to the call should be sent at least 5 days before the call, with all of the documents or any kind of materials that needs to be read by the sections, preferably, to the sections so they can read and understand what is happening. And the local board should send at least one designated representative to this call. Also, the whole local board can come, but you should send at least one. Next. The call itself. So during the call, the president, or again, the designated national board member, explains the topic of the agenda. In this, I added that the minutes of the call should be taken and shared to the sections, to those members that couldn't join the section consultation call, and the national board can share their opinion about the voting matters only after at least one section request. If there is nothing regarding that no section wants to hear the national board's opinion, national board does not give the opinion. Simple as that. Next. Calculation of the vote. So after the call, the president or again designated national board member as the section president or their replacement to cast their vote on the topic. So similar as we have done it so far, that I usually send the Google form, you need to fill it out. And for us, it helps to understand how we need to vote as a national organization during the GA. The sections need to have at least one week to cast their votes. Each session must vote once, please don't vote 5 times. And the final votes are then communicated to the local boards at the national level at least 1 day before the general assembly. Next. About the voting ethics, so usually it's a general assembly, each national organization gets 3 spots. One of them is vote holder and then national delegates, and of course we can also get guest spots. So the perspective is in Latvia's the perspective is the Latvia's delegation must take into account the input of the sections. So your voice matters. That's something that I want to underline here. And if the new information arrives during the General Assembly, as it usually is, and impacts the intended vote, then the Latvian delegation of the General Assembly can decide to change their voting position, but should inform local boards about it, clearly explaining the reasoning. And yeah, some of the topics that must be consulted in the section, but it's up to the board if they want to add something more. So the statutes and internal rules, everything that is related to the sections. Rights of the sections, requirements of the sections, duties of sections, etc. Event policy papers, section related events, so national buzzwords, no, regional platforms and harassment generation meeting, visual identity, so logo of ESN and BIM, elections of the statutory bodies, so the price event, audit commission whatsoever. No. Back, yes. So budget and partnerships, mainly the membership fees, ESN card pricing, fees, etc. In terms of these topics such as long-term strategy, which won't be discussed anymore for the next 6 years. Next.
Thank you. And now we also open speaker list.
Yes.
Yeah, hello.
ESN Latvia. First, I would like to start with an appreciation. As you know, Paula is going to be our last NR, and our had a lot of duties with events and with the GA. It's not an easy task, and she's really setting up the next board to have an easy transition to split up these tasks. I think that should really be appreciated, that she's doing a lot to help the next board do the work.
Another question.
ESN Latvia. So this is a question I kind of already know the answer to, but I think it's important maybe for the sections to hear the answer to. At what point do you draw the line between what sections should vote and what the NB should have a decision over? You mentioned the topics, but for example, IB candidacy was not mentioned. So at what point do you think the section should decide? Not statutory body. Okay. Maybe I didn't read like IB sides.
It was statutory bodies, so we did like.
No, I know. Just
commission.
Anyway, on your opinion as an NR, what do you think the national board should be voting and deciding inherently on? What do you think the section should be voting and deciding inherently on? Because some votes impact the sections and some votes impact the national organizations.
Yeah, of course, sections should have the right to vote. Everything that is in the sections affects the sections. Of course, it makes sense. Same goes for the membership fee, same goes for the ESN card pricing rate, because it corrects and it impacts the same. Now, as for the visual identity, so as if you know, if section does not follow the BIM, 3 warnings and you out. Simple as that, if you don't change it. So everything that is directly linked to the sections should overrule, let's say, the end result unless there is really some kind of information arriving that you know that it's not going to benefit the sections. When it comes to MB, of course we have much bigger, and no offense to anyone here, but we have much bigger understanding how the international level works, how all the documents are working, especially my 2 years mandate. Sometimes we take the section mode. For me, I don't understand why it's works like that, but I do understand it because of me being in a position for 2 years, I have a bigger understanding. So when it comes on MB, honestly, almost all of the other topics in that section. But in fact, I don't know. I cannot give you an example now, for example, but that is not directly linked to the sections. The rest should be the MB. Simple answer. And a very slight thing.
Thank you so much. If anyone else have any questions, then I propose to close the speakers list. Are there any objections? No objections, I close the speakers list, and we are wonderful on time. And then proceed with the event policy paper session by Vincent.
There's a presentation of Saturday. Presentation. Yeah. Alright, hi everyone, I'm Vinny, and let's talk about something that bring a lot of availability to our section, especially when it comes to events. So, event policy. So, how we're gonna do it? So, for pretty much like every NA in here, we have created like pretty much everything has been like done completely from scratch, and there was like a real limited amount of. Can you go to the next slide? A really limited amount of structures as well as guidelines and also resource, like it's basically passing the knowledge from one one OC to another one. So for the creation of this is what I have built over there for my PhD, like for my last year for the BP. So it has been created all the way like for my work all the way from September. So this create a little bit more structures, and then it helps us a lot like to avoid like confusions about the roles and responsibility of each of the OC members, as well as missed deadline and mistake like coming from one OC to another one. This is more or less, it's not like a guidebook, it's like a living document. So it gives us just more or less a clear structure on how to do with basically one of pretty much like ESN Latvia, the biggest national events. And it's also to help us to support grow and continue to see it over there for the work of our volunteers. Next one, please. So what does it cover? So this one is covering like pretty much all of the necessary and core elements on how to run and planning a successful national assembly, which is including like timeline, deadline, responsibility of the OC, the NB, as well as the chairing teams, and what they need to do what. And accommodation, pretty much like their basic needs, like to have a safe place to crash by, as well as catering, communication when it comes to like communication teams with like visuals, promotion materials, and also like for the basically the basic standard and also accessibility over there for the venue in the first place. And also there's a timeline of like the budget when it comes to finance and when the person where you need to reach out when it comes to like question and concern. Next one. So some important I put up there for this one on alongside with like the guideline that was creating by Paula from last 2 days ago, so it's more or less but so it has more or less with the much more like clear and also the more detailed way when it comes to communication plan from the national forum alongside with the OC local sections. It also focuses more on the well-being of the participants as well as we need to take into in mind about accessibility of the venue. Pretty much like basic standard for all of like the NA, which is like water, patch design needs to be like more self-defeat, and then also a better collaboration, like coordinating between like national board and also the OC. And it's helped creating a professional and also like help us to bring us like in the image that we are a serious organization when it comes to taking care for the board, the participants, the guests, and also the partners. Next one, thank you. So, what is so massive with our futures of ESN Latvia? Alex, thank you. So as we're growing, we need more of like a guide standard when it comes to like sustainability, accessibility, and also like how the section is growing. And this like event policy is set a foundation with when it comes to having like a smaller section with more confident host like bigger events, and also make the planning easier, much easier, and also consistent to one another when it comes to this guideline. Also, like there's a lot of time where we have pretty much the entire new board, like only new members, so it's also supporting a lot when it comes to the volunteers. And last but not least, it's helped a lot tremendously when it comes to like reducing the burnout stress and also like this capacity in a way. So with this, it's also reflected tremendously for our core values, so transparency, inclusion, and also teamwork on together. So how are we going to be using this? So it's going to be set as a standard guide for every NA. So once the local section was appointed to be the OC, this going to be sent right away by the VDGs to the local section to go through all together with them. And what's the step and also responsibility for the NB and also the OC. And then it's going to be shared. Yeah. And then it's going to be much easier for the NB as well as city to track all the process. And as we learn from one event to another, we're going to keep updated so that we can get to learn from our mistake. And once again, this is, as I mentioned earlier, it's a living document, so we add more. It's not just like a baseline. Yeah, so basically, like this document, it helps ESN Latvia to grow smarter, but not to work harder, because it helps to like protect the hard work of volunteers and also give the new OC a clear path, like on what to when it comes to like a national event, and it show that we are serious like organization when it comes to protecting also like helping the work of our volunteers. And yeah, well, thank you so much, especially for those who were giving me feedback, especially for like the envy for helping me making this document, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Now I will be the speakers list. First we'll go to the
So my first question, I mean, it's kind of also a discussion we've kind of had about it. The EPP is an events policy. For me, it should be for multiple events, not just one. So how do you see the future of this document, considering now we're doing national Erasmus games, there's potential of doing national trainings? Would it have made sense to be more of an NA guide, or would you think it's an adaptable EPP in the future?
Like I mentioned over there, it's a living document, so we need to put more one update from one another. For myself, I have no idea about what exactly going on behind the scenes with national Erasmus games. So it's just like myself, I will be in the wrong place if you like put on the work to make them. And also, I do feel like for that we need much more guideline. And also, I should be the first one when it comes to like making that guideline for Erasmus.
Thank you. And the second question was
Again, also small appreciations. I want to appreciate my board members for all their documents. I know from my experience when I was in the OC for an NA and also from the comments we received from the previous OCs, organizing an NA when you don't know what an NA is, you don't have never been to one or never organized one is rough. Like it's rough for everybody. So every NA we're starting from the beginning. We might know what we're doing, but it's still the sections don't know what we're doing, so I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Thank you. And then there's a question, Carla? Maybe not really, but why, Linda is in Riga, so it was partially covered by Elsa's question, but why is it called the events and paper policy then if it's just a guide for NA?
It's a standard from ESN international.
Yes, but wouldn't it make sense to call it guide for NA?
would still say like it's the same for pretty much like every place, and also what's called like an event policy papers. And that's it's just like inconsistent with other countries, well, not just.
This in Austria, we also follow the guideline for MA guideline. It's separated from the UN policy paper, but our UN policy paper is also something
Also, ESN Latvia. Also, it's really important to mention, well, the comment is very valid, and I do agree with it to some extent. ESN International is trying to move in the direction where they're standardizing the names of all documents, where they're trying to make document names more clear, so having them match on all levels generally makes sense. Whether in this context, and I think also would have made more sense generally at what point it will be called.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else having a question? No, then I propose to close the speakers list. Any objections? No objections. The speakers list is closed, and we're moving to the next point. Thank you so much. Okay, and now we do another exciting interactive part of our National Assembly. Now we'll go for the second round of workshops. They will last 1 hour. We'll have 2 workshops happening at the same time. One will be hosted by Vincent, another one will be hosted by Linda and Jitin. OC, do you have any comments regarding the venues, or they're the same?
Those are the same venues. Linda's workshop is gonna be there, and Vinny is upstairs.
And then I will see we will see you in 1 hour at 16 minutes. It's starting now. Yes. Prezentacje same.
Еще будет музыка?
Нет, завтра. Да.
Well, so it was, oh, sunshine, is you ready?
Yeah.
Last word. I'm ready. Are you feeling first? As long as we're positive.
No, I don't like family. I am my own. I'm speaking to myself in my corner. So when you do
Yes.
Of course, last time, yes, but
You guys score first.
it doesn't look
What
You can write something. Just give it.
That's how it's basically
Guys, please take your seats further back here.
family leaders, please come to the stage. Alright. Mr. Does somebody know where is Katerina? So, the body family leaders. So, as a tradition, let's put it like that, as a tradition, we have at the end of each and every day body families, which means it's time for you to reflect what you have learned today, what gave you joy, what gave you sadness, and also to give feedback for the OC and CT to know what to improve. With me, together, almost all of them are the body family leaders. Maybe you want to introduce yourself and also the number of the body family that you have. You can find in which body family group you are, opening the agenda, finding on the bottom, the body family leaders. You open it and you need to find your name. So please, introduction.
Okay, hello, I'm Mark, ESN Estonia. I'm from the body family number 2. I have already seen all of you, so I will go to find it.
Hello, my name is Roman, ESN Riga. I am the body family leader of the coolest group 4, and I might not be able to find all of you, but I will try, and if not, then you find me.
My name is Anita, and we are number 1 group, so come on. I think there's only 2 people right now on the spot. Better for me.
Let's go for you, yes.
My name is Sigurd, ESN Latvia, body group number 3. I think I spotted all of you, but just in case, find me.
You're saying your name, which body family member you are, and who are you from.
Your name?
Okay, my name is Katerina Shura. I'm from ESN Riga, and my team number is 5.
So please be respectful towards the body family leaders. They're going to put a lot of work to help also improve our name, and they're the persons that you can vent about something you don't like or something you like. I don't care. But be respectful, and also in terms of code of conduct as well. I don't think I need to explain that. So now you will have 30 minutes to reflect in your group. Please be honest. We won't judge. The NB and CT will be outside. You're not going to listen. So it's a free choice. And follow your body family leaders. They will find a place where group. Let's say that. Yes. And you need to be back in 30 minutes.
So, team number 4.
I'm your peer. Julia. Julia. I know your name. Yeah. Okay, esta es.
Esto me pasó en eso. Well, I have met every single person here.
Is there somebody else?